Welcome to Secrets from a Billionaire's Matchmaker with matchmaker Gina Hendrix.
Well, hello there. Welcome to another show. Oh boy, we're going to have some fun today. I'm Gina Hendrix. I'm a matchmaker. I've been a personal private matchmaker to some of the most eligible men in the world since 2008. Holy moly, time just flies. And out of that intel, instead of gatekeeping, I decided to share it with all of you. So I've learned so much. I have a PhD in men and dating just from being a fly on the wall all these years. So you get the benefit of all that. All right. So out of it has also come another part of my business beyond matchmaking, because I only do matchmaking for men, as you know, at a very high level. And I only work for 7 to 8 guys ever at one time. Because in my opinion, I think matchmaking should be very small and boutique, because otherwise you're not going to really know the people you're working with. You're not going to know who you're setting up, and it becomes this runaway train. So I have a very small boutique business working with men all around the world, and it's pretty fabulous. But out of that has come this other side where I get to help you ladies through the various, programs I've offered over the years. And now I just launched my 1 in a Million Woman Advantage. So that's there. I don't call it a program. I don't call it coaching, because it's so much more. It's like a 360-degree immersive experience where I'm just resetting everything you need for dating. So anyway, it's all of that, but I do these weekly power hours. And from that is this show. So we slice and dice, we edit, we protect people's names when necessary, and any personal details. So when you hear things that sound like, hang on, that was a little editing flub or skit, that's intentional. We're always here to give you the good advice, but also giving you the freedom to just lay it all out. Okay? So let's not wait another minute. This is going to be a good, spicy show. Are you ready? I am. Let's do this.
I just wanted to say thank you for everything. And like last time around, at our last session last week, I had asked a question via the chat about somebody who wasn't coming through with actual plans, even though they'd mentioned the date, but that person did. It was great. I'm not sure we're exactly on the same level, like life-wise, but the date was fantastic. So basically you had really coached about kind of how to initiate the conversation so that I didn't discount somebody who ultimately there was a great date, and your advice for everything is spot on. Like, you need to have your jobs on the profile when you look at them. If it's not there, that person usually is not legit. Everything is awesome. So thank you.
Wow, that means a lot to me. Thank you so much. And weren't you thinking, I think if memory serves me correct, weren't you thinking of pulling the plug on the date altogether?
Yes, I was.
See, you know what's funny? It's like, these are things like I would have done the same thing you guys want to do back in the day before I had my matchmaking. But, having my matchmaking, then seeing what men do, like actually seeing it from behind the scene, gives me just a whole different perspective. So great. I'm glad it worked. And yeah, I've learned a lot. I wish I knew this stuff back in my 20s and 30s, but oh well, I know it now. And now I can share it with you guys. Well, thank you so much for the compliment. Keep them coming, ladies. Never gets old. I love it. Thank you so much. That really truly means a lot to me. I appreciate it. So, sex. Let's talk about sex. Can you have too much sex? And what happens if he's a horny horn dog? I love this. All right, let's dive in.
This is a question about sex.
Okay.
Can I ask that?
Yes. Spice it up
today. A couple of times ago, I was on this call, and I was at somebody else's house, and I think I told you I've got a friend who I've known for a while in Park City who's kind of stepped up and wanted to be more than a friend.
Yeah.
And he does check a lot of boxes. He's a high quality man. He's always treated me nicely, but it hasn't been more romantic until recently. But and I've gone on trips with him now, and he wants to have sex all the freaking time, like 3 times a day.
Wow.
All the time. Like, I'm there with him for 5 days, wants it all the time. I'm 64. Like, okay, great. It's nice that you find me attractive. He says the nicest things about how great my body is, blah, blah, all that. But it's just too freaking much. Like,
right.
Is that, he's like, well, if you're going away with someone for a long weekend or whatever, that's kind of normal. Like, I don't feel like that's
I
that's
mean, how
a
and
lot.
how old is he?
60.
So he's younger.
Yeah.
Is he on anything?
No.
Have you asked him?
Yeah, we've talked
Okay.
about that.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's totally flattering. I mean, so when it comes to that stuff, I'm curious what the other ladies will say about this because I don't know. That
It's
part,
just like, I like spending time with him, but if our needs are that far different, and I felt like I like sex as much as the next person, but just like, enough already. Let's go for a hike. I mean,
it's interesting.
and we do that, but I just feel like he may be a little over sex
Oh,
for my taste. And, I was 37 before I got married. I had plenty of sex with plenty of
right,
different guys before I got married.
right.
But it was never like that. Even in my youngest years with the, most sexually charged men.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, in a way, it could be considered a quality problem, but yeah, maybe he's just over. Does he watch porn or anything like that? Do you know?
Um, he does. I don't know that he does it like all the time when I'm not there, but he's mentioned that. And
Just like hypersexualized, maybe. Yeah, I mean, listen, here's what I say to you guys. There's different phases and stages that you hit in this whole dating process where you're discovering, are we compatible? And just because everything looks right, in the first couple of months, you're going to get to a place where you go, is our fighting is our fighting or disagreements, are we compatible in that way? Are we compatible sexually? Da da da. And this sadly might be one of those things where you're not compatible, because part of me wonders, and again, I don't know for sure, right? So we're just debating it, but part of me wonders if you're with a man who's just so hyper sexualized, and you're not on that same page, is he going to eventually want to get more elsewhere to get those needs met, and also, who wants to constantly be turning somebody down when they want it and just be, I don't know, I'm annoyed with it. So, that would be a lot. That would be a lot. And does he seem to, like, when you say, like, oh, and so of course you've had these conversations, I can tell by what you've said here. So saying like, hey, this is a lot for me or whatever, I'm sure you said, how does he react? Does he say, oh, you're right, let's go do something else? Or does he try to, like, talk you into it?
I mean, we do a lot of, let's go do something. We do a lot of other stuff
Yeah.
as well. It's not like,
No, I
we're in
understand
bed
that.
for 5 hours, but yeah, it's like, I'm all dressed. I've just got showered and ready to go. You want to do something before we go? Like, can't we do it after we go? I don't know. I mean, we've had
But
these,
Diana, when you say that, then what would he say?
yeah, try to convince me,
Right.
playfully.
Right.
And sometimes he does and sometimes he doesn't. But to me, it feels like all that is really like, it's all feels recreational. It doesn't feel tender and loving. Like, I don't feel like we make love.
Interesting. I see.
And
So he's just like a horn
feels like
dog.
at this point in the, and I felt like, well, okay, so it was friends plus benefits. Now we're seeing if it's more than just friends and plus benefits. But it just feels like he doesn't understand what intimacy really is, although he will tell me that he craves intimacy and that's what he was lacking in his marriage. They had sex, but not intimacy. But I don't think he knows what that is.
I would have a conversation with him about that. So his nickname, because we always like to give these guys nicknames, because I'll never remember John, Bob, Fred, or Larry. So, but I will remember the circus clown, the dentist, the gynecologist, the coach, the lab, the detective, or in this case, the horn dog. All right. So this guy will be forever named the horn dog. So keep me posted on what happens, as I know you will. All right. Next question. I am going to read a question here, and it's all about talking about not getting the details on a date. And also I'm going to dive into getting back, like when somebody doesn't get back to you soon enough, because these are scenarios that I hear quite a bit. All right. So let's start with this question, and I'm going to read it to you. I was supposed to go on a date. The date was clearly decided on. Guy said he would pick restaurant, and now it's 2 days prior. How do I get out of this politely? Normally, all guys clearly say date, time, and location. Okay, so I don't know why you're trying to get out of it. So why are you trying to get out of it? Because he hasn't given you the info? I wouldn't get that dramatic about it, to be honest with you. I'd literally just shoot him a text and say, "Hey, John, Steve, Fred, Ted, hey, just checking in. Do you have details for our date Thursday night or Friday night or whatever it is?" And just leave it at that. Because some guys, and I've had this happen in my matchmaking business where my guys are bringing their A game, but some guys get busy. Like I had a scenario once where it doesn't happen often, but it happens. So you got to give people wiggle room, and it's okay. I wouldn't be offended. I wouldn't be upset in the slightest. In fact, I know women who, it's the day before and they're like, "Gina, I haven't heard it." I said, "Yeah, just send him a text. Hey, do you have the details?" He's like, "Oh, yeah. So I had it happen in my matchmaking business a couple of years ago where my client, because he was going to San Francisco from LA to meet her, so he coordinated all the details on his own. Typically I do for a first date, but he did. And he was already in contact with the girl. They were also talking and stuff, which normally doesn't happen when I'm coordinating it. They're here. But if there's distance, anyway, so they were kind of doing their own thing. So it was the day before the date. I think it was the day before the date. And she texted me and she was furious. And she's like, "I haven't heard from him. This is ridiculous. I thought he was going to make a plan, blah, 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 blah." And then I was all wound up too. So I reach out to him and I'm like, "Hey, like what happened? Like you were supposed to make a plan." He's like, "Oh my gosh, Gina, I already made a plan. I have all the details. I have the restaurant booked." He said, he said, "I'm sorry. I just got busy. My plan was to reach out to her and give her the info, I guess soon." But I was like, yeah. And so anyway, so I tried to talk her down from the ledge. I was able to talk her down from the ledge and they went out, but she kind of still had like her bristles up. So it just didn't go well because she couldn't get over it. But I think you guys get upset about stuff way too soon. Honestly, I do. And I would tell you, because I'm one of the most hardcore people you're ever going to meet about stuff like that. But I've just learned so much about men from having this business. It's not an insult to you. It doesn't mean they're not excited to meet you. It's not, honestly, it doesn't. I think one of the biggest mistakes both people, men and women, make in the early stages of dating, especially when you've not even met them yet, that people have things going on in their lives and it has nothing to do with you. It's not an insult to you at all. And so I just think we go off the deep end way too soon. I think even when, you guys haven't heard from them, you're in the early chatting phases in the app and you didn't hear back in 24 hours, you just want to unmatch him. That's a little going off the deep end, in my opinion. I think, again, like there's extenuating circumstances. I've had to talk some of my male clients, especially when they're super rich and have plenty of time on their hands. If somebody doesn't get back to them, and this doesn't happen often, but I've had a couple of spoiled ones where, they just like, and then see, the thing is, those guys didn't know that I knew what was personally going on in the woman's life. And there was a reason why she didn't get back. It had nothing to do with them. So that's one of the biggest things I've actually learned. In fact, I should do a TikTok video about that soon. But that's one of the biggest things I've learned from my matchmaking business is that you guys take things, both men and women, personalize it too soon. And stuff a lot of times has nothing to do with you. People have so many things going on in their lives. Whew. Okay, ladies, I am going to now step down from my soapbox. Got a little carried away, but I hope that you found that information helpful because boom, I gave it all to you. Okay. So next we're going to move on and my buddy here is going to read to me or tell me about a situation where I guess somebody posted something that's happening. She was telling you about in the community or something. Can you tell us more? I do want to get this situation all sorted out.
There was a situation in the community where one of the ladies had met a really nice guy on a plane, and she shares that he's successful, smart. He had his 10-year-old daughter with him, and was very sweet to her and caring. And they started chatting, and he asked for her number, and they have since been on 2 dates. And she also shared that he's legally separated in the process of an early divorce. My understanding is that your suggestion is if they're not legally divorced,
Right.
don't go out. You don't start anything until
I agree. Yeah, no,
Okay.
no,
And
that's
that's what I
Yeah.
shared. They were both coming back from a ski trip, not, they didn't meet on the ski trip, but from the same place. And that he likes to ski, she likes to snowboard. And he asked her to go away next, for a weekend and to do some skiing. And my feedback to her was it seemed like a little soon, and that it's really important, that about what you said about really if he's not divorced yet, you might want to just back off a little. They haven't filed for divorce yet. They're in discussions to finalize stuff.
Again, everything I talk about is literally pulled from most 90%, 99%. I don't know, somewhere between 90 and 99% from my matchmaking business and what I've encountered with men and what I know. So, I mean, I know that sometimes divorces, and a lot of you ladies can know this too, probably from your own divorces can take a very, very long time. And, and at the end of it, sometimes, rarely, but sometimes they go back together. People get back together. I've had it happen even in my matchmaking business with someone very, very well known. And so I think, it's a gamble. That's the only thing. So to date somebody who's not legally divorced is a gamble on your part. Although, anything about dating is kind of always a gamble, but if he doesn't have that clarity, that complete severed, he's footloose and fancy free, it's just, you could be potentially wasting your time. And my advice is just to take the safer bet, the safer route. Because why not? If we have 2 routes, we could take the gamble or we could take a safer route. Why not? Why wouldn't I encourage you to take a safer route? So I always say, make sure that they are absolutely legally divorced. And if you like them and they like you, you could say, hey, I like you a lot, but I just, in my experience, and it's a policy that I made for myself, I really don't date anybody until they're legally divorced. So when that happens, if you want to circle back to me, if I'm still single and you're now single, I would love to see you again, and leave it at that. And then I think if a man's going to ask you to go away on a trip and it's early on, and you're not sleeping together yet, a lot of times these guys are doing that to kind of advance it sexually because they're men, they're down and dirty dirt dogs, as I like to say. But then, yeah, you absolutely say, hey, I'd love to go away with you if you want to go away with them, right? If you do, then just say, but I would just, I hope you don't mind. I would like for you to get me my own room. Mm-hmm. And hopefully he respects that and he gets you your own room. You know what I mean? No matter what he says, like, oh, well, I'm not planning on trying to sleep with you. Yeah, fine. Because here's the thing. When you get your own room, you can poop in your own room. Okay. You can get ready in your own room. He doesn't have to see behind the curtain of things. So when you shack up with him too soon and you're in the room, while it may not be about sex, it also is about still maintaining a little bit of veil of privacy that you need. Okay. So let's just close the loop on all of this, right? Number 1, always make sure that they're legally divorced. And you can always say, how long have you been legally divorced? You got to use those words, okay? And it's really important because you don't want to waste time on somebody that's not, because that can drag out for years, all right? Number 2, takeaway number 2, going away with him too soon. You don't want to do this. This could put you in a very awkward position. And if it comes to a point where you have been dating him and it's the first time you're going away, I would still recommend, and it's perfectly fine, to ask to get your own room. Okay. So moving on. This next bit is about long distance dating. And I'm going to share with you in a minute how I feel about some boundaries here.
I have a contender. He's a chiropractor down in Dallas that I've been talking to. We really hit it off. I like him a lot. We've just spoken over the phone a couple of times, and it's kind of getting to that point where we decide when and how we're going to kind of meet. And he has mentioned coming up, so I'm kind of hoping that might be the default. But we've also talked about me coming down there. So my question is, I know in the past we've talked about having the men like pay for our plane tickets and our hotels and stuff like that. Um, I was wondering, does that still apply for him paying everything for me to fly from Alaska? Because it's a little different for me flying from Alaska than say flying from like Dallas. We're talking like a potentially $400 to $800 plane ticket and hotel, and it's almost like flying me in like from Europe for somebody who's not like super rich. You know, he does well for himself, but do I still expect him to pay for everything if I do end up going down to Dallas, or would it be reasonable for me to pay for part and him to pay for part? I do want him to have skin in the game, though, for sure.
Of course. That's tricky. It's a good question and it's tricky. I'm trying to think right now as well. So normally what I do is I think as my clients, and my clients, of course, are very wealthy. So they spring for everything. But like me as a person, you know, I don't really date those private plane guys. I mean, I don't really date. I've got all these animals, 9 animals. Who am I kidding? But anyway, but if it were me, and I am kind of the type of person, you know, it's interesting because, you know, my whole audience has been built on the men I work with for matchmaking, which doesn't reflect me as an actual person. Like me, I've never, and now if I went back in time, maybe I'd change things. But you know, back in the day, I've never been somebody. I wouldn't be somebody who lets them pay for things. I would feel bad. But knowing what I know now about men, I would not. I absolutely would not pay half. I wouldn't ask. I wouldn't. I just wouldn't.
So kind of sit back and just kind of wait and see what he comes up with. I think he does want to meet. So he may end up defaulting to coming back.
That would be ideal, because also I don't really recommend the ladies going out of their comfort zone for a first date anyway, you know?
It says he'd like to come and stuff like that. So I think tonight we might talk, and I'll start kind of encouraging that and see kind of the direction the conversation takes too.
Yeah, I would do that. I mean, I do know being in Alaska is challenging. I think, did we say this before, that when I was a flight attendant, we used to say, you know, the odds are good, but the goods are on, kind of thing.
Oh my God, it's so true up here.
But anyway, so yeah, I get the temptation to want to like, you know, meet him halfway because he is a good guy, and it's so rare when they come along. But I you know, I think even if you want to do that, I don't want you to bring it up. Let's see how he handles it.
Okay.
Right? Put it on him. He'll ask, he'll say, he'll initiate a conversation, you know.
I think he's the type that will. He is kind of a, you know, I think he's a kind of a masculine guy who will kind of start leading, you know, things a little bit. So I'm going to sit back and kind of see where he takes things, I think.
Right. Love it. And have you guys, you've done FaceTime or Zoom and all that?
Not yet. I was thinking of maybe, we've done 2 calls, and I think the next step would be like a FaceTime type thing.
100%.
Okay. I'll have him do that like tonight. Then we'll video. My only other question too is, I know normally, like say on first dates, you don't want to talk about like religion or politics, but I'm thinking this might be something we need to bring up before we do a whole big cross country trip. Is there an exception to that rule?
I mean, here's what I say. And somebody was asking me, and she was like, you know, what should I ask him? And, you know, while, yes, I have lists out there about, you know, fun questions to ask or whatever.
Yeah.
But before you get to those, what you really need to focus on is say to yourself, what is most important to you? And therefore, when you get on these calls, you've got to ask these questions so that you get clarification on what's important to you. So if his political views are important, you need to ask and get that out of the way.
Okay.
It never hurts, even if they they're looking for a real relationship, but maybe you guys haven't had an actual conversation. I think that's an important thing. I think when it's long distance, you want to say, hey, so have you ever dated anybody long distance? And how did it work for you? And, you know, and kind of just feel these important things out. Before you get into, you know, what's a fun fact about you? Most people wouldn't, you know, like that's important. That like takes you beyond the basics, but you got to cover your basics. And I think it's an individual, that's kind of an individual thing. You got to figure out what's so important to you in a partner. And that's what you want to ask. So I hope that we're clear. Really, I want these guys to make true effort And I think, at least definitely in my world, and I think in your world too, these guys should be coming to you. I'm never comfortable taking a woman out of her surroundings and flying her to meet a guy that she doesn't know yet. So it's always a safe bet and my preference that they would fly in to see you. Okay, great. So now I got a next question. We're going to move it along here. I'm going to read you this question that somebody wrote to me. And we're going to cover the basis about, just how much communication should be happening between dates. And here we go. I'm going to read this question. What are your thoughts about communication from men in between dates? I'm not a big texter, and one of the men I went on a date with is also not. How often do you think I should hear from him? Yeah, it's such a good question. I think honestly, it kind of is a person to person kind of thing. And I think that's also kind of where you guys start to figure out whether your styles are compatible. Are you dating a guy that has to have that, like, good morning, good night? And there's women that need to have that too. Me, hell, I don't want to hear from anybody unless they're just asking me out again, until there's really something cooking. And when I feel like there's really something cooking, I mean, we can always feel like on the first or second date, like a false sense of that. But real would be consistency. So I would say maybe after a fourth date or something, you start talking more. I think, it's perfectly reasonable also to say that maybe a little more progress should be made each time after a date. So maybe before the first date, you had a great call, coordinated the date. There was nothing before he confirmed the date and that was it. But then between the first date and the second date, there has to be something. There can't be nothing, because what I find, I dated a guy once and we went on like 3 or 4 dates and I actually kind of liked him. But the problem was I never heard from him in between. And it felt like a first date all over again every time. You know what I mean? It was very hard to get the vibe going. So there has to be a little something. And I think if a guy's not at all after several dates, then to me, what it tells me, and I think this was true of the guy that I went out with like that, he's not fully emotionally available. There's a block somewhere. He's hung up on somebody from the past. He's seeing somebody. There's something, because typically, men and women, I think we start investing in each other a little more. If the second date now went great, now I'm going to invest a couple more times in talking to you a little more that week before the third date. You see what I mean? And I think it should be like slow progressions like that. And so that is my opinion on that. I certainly hope it helps. All right, moving on. This is going to be kind of a sensitive topic. And you're coming back to me here, my little buddy, like a little bird on my shoulder. You're going to share with me another scenario that you saw a woman who posted in our community about a very sensitive subject that she's dealing with. So yeah, lay it on us.
So one of the women shared that she had seen a man. I don't know if they matched or not, or maybe I don't remember, but she saw something. I think it was just that she saw something on his profile, and he mentions that he has HSV2, and was just wanting to know if you have any suggestions, because there's a way. I've heard that there's ways to get around that, but you have to know what you're doing, and also that, because millions, billions of people carry the virus,
but they don't even know.
Yeah, you don't know. You really don't know.
I mean,
so you could be getting it. You could be getting the virus from anybody that you kiss, that that carries the virus. Do you know what I mean?
This is such a philosophical, in a way, it's a philosophical question, because it becomes like, should that man even be revealing that at that stage? Because it's going to turn off a lot of ladies. Whereas if they got to know him, then they might be more open-minded to working with whatever's going on.
Right. And at the same time, I can kind of understand. Apparently the man has a lot of integrity, because he doesn't want to, deceive anybody. And I also understand what you're saying, because I think it would be better maybe to talk about it.
Would you have a t-shirt printed up and just wear it around, like when you go into the world? Just letting you know, I've got whatever I've got, just let everybody know. or today you got to wear your COVID t-shirt because you got COVID right now. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I just think there's some things that you don't need to talk about with people until it's come down
Right.
to being their actual business. Same time, I respect the honesty. It's just the poor guy, I'm sure, doesn't get much traction.
Well, when do you bring that up in discussion, right?
Right. That I
Like,
haven't.
when do you ask, or do you ask? Do you wait for, so
I
that
mean,
was,
so I think, although nobody seems to be talking about this much anymore, I think before you sleep together, you should say, hey, let's both go and get tested for everything.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
also, if he's willing to go get tested, now he's not just tricking you to sleep with him.
Right.
Hey, you guys have both gone and gotten tested. Maybe we can even go together. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and because I did that back years ago.
I did too. I've done that several
Right.
times.
And people aren't talking about that much anymore. But
Yeah,
it's
they
like
aren't.
you're worried about sleeping with somebody and you want, especially if you're sort of worried, like, how invested are they? Are they just telling me what I want to hear? Like, sure, we're in a relationship. Well, believe me, when you tell them, hey, let's both go and get tested, that is really going to be the come to Jesus moment, whether to know if he's truly invested. So remember, ladies, I want you to hear this in your head. When it gets to the point and you guys are about to sleep together, if he's invested, he'll get tested. And even better if you guys go together. Boom. Okay, moving on to the next question. All right, so this guy seems like he's a slob, and you've got a great question. So lay it on me. Let's do this.
What do you do when you show up to a date and you're way overdressed and the man is wearing like shorts?
Feel great about yourself.
Okay,
Sit
so it's
and let him sit in the embarrassment that he is a schlub.
okay.
Honestly,
Yeah, that
truly,
just came up.
yeah, that I wouldn't.
Okay.
I mean, listen, for whoever's dressing up and looking their best, I think you should continue to do that every time, because again, you might be leaving the restaurant, you might be stopping at the grocery store on the way home, and you look great, so you're not going to miss an opportunity. But you're also gathering information on this guy showing up who's not putting in effort. And here's the thing: a married friend of mine told me this years and years and years ago, back in the early 2000s, and I never forgot. It was before I was a matchmaker. She said, and she was a rules girl, anyway. And so she said, Gina, just keep in mind how they treat you and how they show up in the very beginning is about as good as it's ever going to be. She said, because once you get comfortable in a relationship and once you get married, he's never going to be any better than he was in the very beginning. So if a guy's going to show up to a first date and not go to make the effort to try to impress you, that's telling you everything you need to know. So, and I think some women think, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. I shouldn't have dressed up this much. I should have kind of been more casual like him. No, why go down to his level? That's the opposite of what we're doing. We're leveling up. So the guys need to either meet us at our own level, at that level, or we just kick them to the curb.
Transition. Gina answers the question about can you look for a provider in today's environment?
I'm 36, living in New York. I just began this program on Friday. Already learned so much. Once we get my profile going, how do I put into words to make it clear that I would like a partner who is a provider? Ideally, I hit it off with my partner. We get married and a family and have the option to not work for a few years until our child is in school. In this economic climate, and the men I've met are more used to 50-50 splitting the bills. I don't know if my standards are antiquated, and I need to be more realistic in finding a partner. Also, I feel it's way too soon to bring this up or too bold to add to my profile, but I'm also at the age where I don't want to waste time. Apologies for the long message. I mean, you brought something really, really great up. It's interesting. I think people are starting to have more of those conversations sooner than they used to. I had a guy that came as a prospective client that I'm talking to, and actually I have a couple of those clients recently and they're younger guys, where they do very, very well. And while on the one hand, they want a woman who's smart and accomplished, they want her to just sort of switch gears once they start having kids and just more be more of the mom, the stay-at-home mom, and raising the kids and having more kids and all that stuff. So I do think these conversations are happening more. I think that maybe for that kind of conversation, we can skew your bio in a way that's like, I'm looking for a man who is accomplished, and is looking for, I would say, more of like traditional male female roles. I think that kind of falls into that category. But then I think where you really pre-qualify is going to be when you get on a phone call with him. So on the call, that's where you're just going to have an open conversation and not be afraid to have the conversation of, something like, so what in the scheme of things, in your ideal relationship, what would an ideal relationship look like to you? Is it, and sometimes I like to give them options, so it gives them the freedom, because if you don't give somebody options, then they're trying to think, well, what does she want me to say? But if you give them a few like mixed answers, then they don't know what you're wanting to say. You could say, what does an ideal relationship look like to you? Is it a traditional male female roles where the man, is a provider and the woman stays home and raises kids? Is it a 50-50? I would throw in like 3 or 4 scenarios and then see what they say. That's the way I would handle it, but we'll get there. And I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're already learning stuff. Okay, so Anne and all you ladies need to know, always keep those standards high, ladies, and never feel like you have to stoop to their level. You do you, but always bring your A game, because you're never going to go wrong when you look fantastic. Trust me on that. All right, so I'm going to read. This will be the last question. I'll take us out. I'm going to read a question. And, I find that this comes up a lot, especially with the subject of the trad wife stuff. And I'm gonna help this young lady get herself sorted out here. And this can apply to all of you. Okay, here we go. I'm going to say to you guys, continue to keep your standards high, but also manage your expectations. For some, it happens sooner. Some, it takes longer, but you just got to keep at it. But don't ever lower your standards or start mixing in haphazard photos. Just if you follow the process, it'll work. It's just, you just got to manage your expectations. If you think, oh, it's going to happen soon, or I'm going to see all these great guys, that's not the world. That's not how the world works. There's not that many exceptional people in the world. And what we're trying to do is create this, what I'm doing for you is creating this formula and strategy so that you're able to pre-qualify these guys very quickly and then kick them to the curb if they're not up to our standards, and then keep moving forward, and again, boom, 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 then rinse and repeat, and everything will be better. But we're going to be clearing the decks so that all these guys that used to just like you and match with you and you thought, oh my God, this is so great. I don't want those guys around. We don't want the looky-loos. We want the ones who are hot leads and are viable actual candidates. And those are the only ones, I want you guys focusing on or spending your time on. Okay, well, I feel more informed. Oh, it's always good to just hear your great questions and know what I've got stored in the vault that sometimes I forget about until you click, unlock it, and the secrets start spilling out. So I hope you've enjoyed it. This is going to take us out for today. And I hope you are subscribing, telling your friends, sharing my shows, because I love doing it and I love it when I'm able to help you. All right, ladies? So be fabulous. I know you are. And keep those standards high. And I will see you again next week.
Want to keep up with more of Gina's advice? Follow her on TikTok and Instagram at matchmaker Gina Hendrix, or visit her matchmaking website, ginahendrix.com.